The effigy of Julius Caesar became the effigy of Jesus Christ, and the effigy of Jesus Christ became an icon of Christianity. Julius Caesar, his Eulogy by Marc Antony, and Jesus Christ by Stephen, author of the greatest Bible study in historical accuracy, 2nd edition, and YouTube video producer of New Conclusions and Perspectives on Christianity 2016 forward, with 2nd century historians Appian of Alexandria and Suetonius, and with late 16th to early 17th century playwright William Shakespeare, with images from Wikimedia Commons. Julius Caesar was born in the month of July in the year 100 before the Common Era. In 63, Julius Caesar was elected Pontifex Maximus, High Priest, the Pope of priests in the Roman Empire. 61 to 60, he was governor of the Roman province of Spain. In April 59, Julius Caesar married his daughter Julia Caesaris to Gaius Pompeius Magnus, Pompey the Great. Also, Caesar was elected as a consul. In the Roman Republic, the consulship was the highest level of the cursus honorum, the sequential order of public offices, through which aspiring politicians sought to ascend. Each year, 2 consuls were elected together to serve for a one-year term. In alternating months, the consuls held the power to command, known as imperium. In times of crisis, when Rome's territory was in immediate danger, after proposition of the Senate, a dictator was appointed for a period of no more than 6 months by the consuls. The monthly alternating power to command of the consuls then was subordinate to the dictator. In 54, Julius Caesar's daughter, wife of Pompey the Great, died. One year later, the Parthian Empire defeated the Roman Republic at the Battle of Carrhae. Serena, Parthia's spabad, or general, was able to win by having a smaller army which moved faster than the Roman force manned and armed, mostly for frontal assault battle. Marcus Licinius Crassus lost the victory over Parthia, not Julius Caesar. Gaius Cassius Longinus also was a Roman leader in this battle, in which 20,000 Roman soldiers were killed. Crassus was killed when the truce turned violent. His death ended the first triumvirate, which had been composed of Pompey the Great, Julius Caesar, and himself. The Republic did not seem to value Pompey the Great and Julius Caesar equally. In 50 BCE, Caesar would have to relinquish his army, but not so Pompey the Great. In 49, with his army, Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon River, ran his opponents out of Italy, and defeated Pompey the Great in Spain. Julius Caesar was made dictator in 49. He was also made dictator in 46 for 10 years. That would have extended to 36 BCE had he lived. Furthermore, overlapping that, in 44, he was made dictator for life. 1 year later, in 48, Pompey the Great was killed by arrangement of Ptolemy XIII, leader of Egypt and brother of Cleopatra VII. In June of the following year, born to Caesar and Cleopatra VII, was a son known as Ptolemy XV Caesar. Outside of the Egyptology, he is known as Caesarion. He would co-rule Egypt with his mother. Year 46 was a year for Caesar's triumph, a public celebration and sanctification of a Roman military commander. He completed a war in Gaul, defeating Vercingetorix, a war in Egypt, a war against Pharnaces of Pontus, and a war against King Juba of Numidia. In 44, Cleopatra VII, leader of Egypt, was living with Julius Caesar, leader of Rome. The Roman Republic did not optimize the possibilities of this fortune of power. Julius Caesar had Rome as dictator for life, Egypt by alliance with Cleopatra, and likely the Parthian Empire by the war he was planning. A republic is not designed to be run by an emperor. March 15th, 44. Julius Caesar was assassinated at a Senate meeting. Afterwards, there was immediate panic, yet Brutus attempted to address the Senate and give the reasons for the conspiracy. He urged his fellow senators to report the act as one of liberty, as one of honor, but those who were not involved fled the chambers. The conspirators raced to the Capitoline Hill where they could be safe from the initial anger of the populace. The body of Julius Caesar was not yet moved, not yet taken home. Outside, panic struck throughout the area. Marcus Lepidus took control of the city. On March 16, the senators gathered for the aftermath of the assassination of the Dictator for life. The governing body decided on a course of general amnesty for the assassins. The liberators, as they and their supporters called themselves. However, in this compromise, they were forced to uphold all of Caesar's laws and individual honors. The liberators' position with the people was likely to fail, dangerously. So the Senate decided to send those senators away by granting the major assassins provincial governorships. Marcus Junius Brutus, the symbolic leader of the conspiracy, was appointed to Crete. Gaius Cassius Longinus, the driving force behind the plot to kill Caesar, was given Africa, and Decimus Junius Brutus Albinus, the man who finally convinced Caesar to make the final walk to the site of his death, and the last to strike him, was given Cisalpine Gaul, Rome's side of the Alps, inhabited by Celts. Lucius Piso, Caesar's father-in-law, retrieved the will from the Vestal Virgins. Caesar's primary heir, Octavian, was his 18-year-old grandnephew, the grandson of his sister. Marc Antony was not successor. Caesar had not willed that, partially because when Caesar was away, replacing Ptolemy XIII with his sister Cleopatra VII as ruler of Egypt, Marc Antony, then administrator of Italy, had not governed well. Marc Antony, supporter of Julius Caesar, a general in Caesar's conquest of Gaul, an augur who studied the flights of birds in order to interpret the will of the Roman gods, secured the right to deliver the eulogy at Caesar's funeral, which was due to begin between March 18th and 20th. Lucius Piso brought Caesar's body into the forum. A huge number of armed men gathered to guard it. With lavish pomp and cries of mourning, it was laid on the platform. Afterwards, wailing and lamentation arose for a long time. Weapons were clashed. Marc Antony had the will of Julius Caesar read. Octavian was the heir. Money was left to each citizen of Rome. Caesar's vast private garden would be opened to the public. As a high government official, for a higher government official, as a friend for a friend, and being related to Caesar through his mother, as a kinsman for a kinsman, Marc Antony spoke. Friends, Romans, countrymen, my fellow citizens, it is not right for the funeral oration in praise of so great a man to be delivered by me, a single individual, instead of by his whole country. You all did love him once, not without cause. The honors that all of you decreed for him, first by Senate and then people, in admiration of his qualities when he was still alive. These I shall read aloud and regard my voice as being not mine, but yours. The victim is not some other person seeking refuge with him, but the sacrosanct and inviolate Caesar. Of what avail, O Caesar, was your humanity in that you were killed by senators? Of what avail your inviolability? Of what avail the laws in that you lie here dead, killed by senators, granted amnesty for this? Nay, though you enacted many laws that men might not be killed by their personal foes, yet how mercilessly you yourself were slain by your friends, honorable men. You lie in the forum through which you led the triumph of Rome. You have been cast down and have been lain upon the rostra from which you often addressed the people. Woe! For the blood-spattered locks of gray. Alas, the robe which you assumed, it seems only that you might be slain at so many parts in it. Oh, God, God of our country, God of our ancestors, and ye other gods. Were I Brutus and Brutus Antony, there would be an Antony who would ruffle up your spirits and put speech in every wound of Caesar to move Rome to rise and mutiny. For my own part, I am prepared to defend Caesar according to my oath. And I call down on myself the terms of the curse should I not defend him. But since it is the view of my equals that it will be for the best that amnesty be granted to those who killed Caesar, I pray that it is for the best. Fellow citizens, I have carefully looked at the birds. What has happened is not the work of any man, but of some spirit. We must attend to the present instead of the past, because our future, and indeed our present, is poised above great dangers, and we risk being dragged back into our previous state of civil war. Let us then conduct this too important and valuable of a person to join the blessed. This man alone emerged victorious over all those who did battle with him. This man alone emerged victorious over all those who did battle with him. I wish I could give my life so you could still be alive. Senators, people, this man alone emerged victorious over all those who did battle with him. In this inspired frenzy, he swept very easily on to passionate emotion. He stripped the clothes from Caesar's body, raised them on a pole, waved them about, rent as they were by the stabs, and befouled with the dictator's blood. At this, the people, like a chorus, joined him in the most sorrowful lamentation. After this expression of emotion, the people were again filled with anger. The speech was over. In customary Roman manner, mournful music and choirs chanted over Julius Caesar, and again his achievements and his fate were recited. The effigy of Julius Caesar became the effigy of Jesus Christ, and the effigy of Jesus Christ became an icon of Christianity. Finally, like a tropion, where a helmet and armor on a cross are raised, a wax effigy of Julius Caesar was raised on a cross, visible to all. By a mechanical device, the effigy of Julius Caesar, with 23 wounds that could be seen, was turned in every direction. The names of those who stabbed Caesar were known. The stab wounds had been inflicted on every part of the body and on the face. On a raised effigy of Jesus Christ, one can see one stab wound. According to the Catholic Church, this was caused by Longinus, a name in common with one who stabbed Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was mourned by the Jews more than by any other nation. For a long time after, they continued to weep over his tomb, both day and night. Suetonius, Divus Julius, 84. Crying under the cross of Jesus Christ is to cry under the cross of Julius Caesar. This sight, this effigy of the stabbed man, seemed so pitiful to the people that they could bear it no longer. Howling and lamenting, the people surrounded the Senate house where Caesar had been killed and burned it down. Plutarch adds that Caesar's funeral pyre was burned, and as it did, some people took up torches from it and went off to burn down the estates of those who had stabbed him. Julius Caesar's bones were carried away and laid to rest in the family tomb. An altar was later erected on the site of the funeral pyre. To the people of Rome, Caesar was a great hero who brought wealth, power, and prestige to the eternal city, and they loved him for it. To them, Caesar truly was a god. Jesus would be one also. At funeral games held to celebrate the life of Caesar in July of 44 BC, a great comet appeared in the sky, lasting for 7 days. In January of 42, by the Senate, Gaius Julius Caesar was named Divus Julius, Divine Julius, officially confirming him as a god. The practice of the imperial cult had begun. Caesar's time passed. Next was the Son of God, Divine Son, Divi Filius, Octavian, Caesar, Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. From Son of God of the Roman Empire to Son of God, ruler of the kingdom of righteousness in Judea and Israel within the Roman Empire. The Jewish Son of God movement was put down by the Roman Empire and picked up by the Roman Empire. Octavian's time passed, but under Flavian emperors, in a Jewish retelling of the story, there is another divine Son, the first ruler of the kingdom of righteousness, Jesus Christ, who lived in Roman territory, Judea, and Galilee, and was killed by Rome under the command of Vespasian, later deified. This divine Father had a son of man, before the man was deified. That Son of Man was Titus.